This is Scotty Reed for Black Talk Radio News, and I'm also joined in this interview with one of the hosts of Occupy the Microphone, Mr. Alex Abercrombie. Thanks for joining in, Alex.
Hello, this is Double A of Occupy the Microphone.
And we have joining us on the line Mr. John Burris, who is from the law firm of John Burris, and he is a representative of the Smith family, as we reported yesterday on Black Talk Radio Network, as well as Occupy the Microphone. Amos G. Smith was a 26-year-old young man who was shot to death by Union City Police on March 2nd. And there's not a whole lot of information out there by the mainstream press as we reported. And so we want to thank you, Mr. Burris, for joining us today.
Yes, I'm actually the lawyer for the family, and I'm representing the family in connection with a federal civil rights lawsuit that I intend to file. Mr. Smith, as you said, was 26 years old. In our view, he was gunned down by Union City police officers, woefully unjustified. He was shot in the back of the head, in the back, and in his back at least twice, and in his buttock as he was running from the police. He had been stopped for a traffic violation for, I don't know what happened right in that violation, but clearly he was running, and he got shot down as he was a good 25, 30 yards away from the police at the time he was shot. So we view this as an egregious act. Now, this happened on a weekend right after two police officers over in Santa Cruz, which is about 75 miles away, had been shot by a gunman. And that weekend, 4 individuals were shot and killed by the police around the Bay Area. I'm representing 2 of those families, and I'm going to tell you that it was a wild weekend where these cops were acting woefully outrageous, and then they sought to cover up their shooting conduct. And certainly in this case, there was a claim that Mr. Smith had a gun. But he certainly didn't have a gun at the time he was shot and killed. Because there was a witness who saw the police go to his body afterwards, and there was no gun. They ultimately saw him go to a car and claimed that that there was a gun found in the car. But clearly, these officers were not being in any way threatened by Mr. Smith at the time he was shot and killed. He was just gunned down.
Very little press coverage from the national press on this. And yes, we on Occupy the Microphone, they did report that less than 27 hours 4 black men were shot and killed by police. Is that correct? All of the victims were males of African descent?
They're all males. I know of 3 of them. The 4th person I don't know, but the other 3 certainly were African-American males. And they were all young. They were all in their 20s. One was 19. Another young man was 19. He was shot about less than 20 miles away from where Mr. Smith was shot. He was a passenger in the car, and the police shot across him to try to hit the driver. Who was trying to leave the scene. He had been stopped for driving under the influence, but neither person was unarmed. And so they shot across the passenger side, killing this kid who really hadn't done anything. He was just a passenger in the car. He was 19 years old. He'd been a foster child. He was working and going to school, and his life was taken from him by this reckless conduct on the part of this cop. This happened in Hayward, California, which is about 10 miles north of Union City.
Now, one of the press reports stated that, and you just kind of clarified that, but I want to go back to that. One of the press reports we were able to find stated that Mr. Smith pointed a gun at the officers, at which point they opened fire. As many people,
not true.
As many people have commented, that just sounds kind of fishy, because what we had heard was that the mother said he was shot 8 times in the back of the head. So, he was, so apparently from the information you've given us, all the shots that hit him were not in the back of his head, but were they all in the back?
They were all in the back. I seen the body, took the photographs of the body of my investigators. I know where those shots were. And one was in the back of his head. One was on the right back of his right shoulder, and the other was on the left, and then one was in the buttocks. There was 4 shots that he was hit by. And, you know, it defies logic to say that he pointed a gun and they opened fire, because there would have been shots in his chest area. And there were none. And more importantly, because of what had happened 2 days before, this young man was talking to other people at his job about how dangerous it was, one, to be in contact with the police, but and number 2, how foolish it would be to point any kind of weapon at a police officer. Every young man in Northern California, I've been involved in countless police shooting cases, they all know that you do not reach for your waistband when you are confronted by the police, because they invariably will say that you're reaching for your waistband to pull a gun. They've all been trained for that, and they will kill you. And so he did not do that. I'm fairly comfortable. If there was a gun in the car, they may have seen that, but he jumped out of the car and he ran. And he certainly would not have pointed a gun at a police officer. And so that's a bold-faced lie. But it's the kind of lie we get from cops out here. I don't know what the situation there is in North Carolina or South Carolina, although I spent a lot of time in Durham. I don't know what the situation, but here, cops lie. And they lie about what they do.
Mr. Burris, let me ask you, did Amos Smith have any reason to run from the police? Was he carrying anything illegal, anything stolen or anything?
Well, he didn't have any drugs or anything like that on him. So I don't really know the answer to that. He was he had just left his mom's house. You know, so I don't know if he was carrying anything. He didn't have any drugs or anything. But that's one of the things we'll find out as we work through the discovery process.
I guess if somebody's shooting at me, I'd run too.
Well, I don't really know that, but I just know that he was running, and he got shot in the back, and he was unarmed at the time. And he was not wanted for any crimes. He was a young man who worked every day at Lincoln Motors Company, where he was a tool room operator. He was a kid who was not getting into trouble. He just wasn't. If anything, he may have smoked marijuana, but, you know, everybody does that at his age. So he wasn't, and he didn't possess a lot of any marijuana. So the story hasn't come through. I think the police have not been forthcoming since I've been involved in this case. My investigators have been out there, but hopefully we'll get to the bottom of it. But I'll tell you, this is a terrible shooting.
With all these shootings within a 27-hour period, does this sound like mass hysteria?
We thought it was overreaction on the part of police officers, panicky kind of shootings that were taking place. I know the shooting that other shooting I'm involved in, where they shot into this car. That was a situation where a kid was driving under the influence. He gets stopped. He pulls into a parking lot. The officer has with him a ride-along. For whatever reason, the car is parked. The police officer parks his car relatively close on the side of where the driver was, and the passenger in the car, the ride-along, opens up his door and gets out of the car, and he's right next to the suspect's car. And as the suspect then tries to leave, the driver, the police thinks that the passenger is going to get hit, and so he starts shooting. And he entered the car. Now, the real problem with that is, number one, a ride-along should never have gotten out of a car. It's poor police tactics for that to happen. And then he chooses to kill this kid and thinking that driver was trying to hit the car. The driver was just trying to get away. The unfortunate part of that case, they've now charged the kid who was driving the car, who was unarmed. They've charged him with the murder. And this is one of these cases that the police, the DA is in cahoots with the police and cover up for the misconduct of an officer.
Going back to Mr. Amos Smith case, now one of the questions that I had, again, not a lot of media reports out there, so we thank you for coming on and sharing what you do know. But one of the questions that I had was, if there were any witnesses, was this in a highly traveled area? Was it on a highway? You know, because usually you have cars, you know, cars passing by. And so I noticed that you mentioned that there was at least one witness who has come forward. Is that witness willing to testify as to what he has saw
well,
or she
that
has
witness
saw?
is a female. She did not see the actual shooting. She saw the officer following the young man. She goes into her house, and then she hears the shootings, and she comes out, and then she sees the officer run over to where the kid is lying in the street. She does not see the officer pick up any weapons of any kind. All she sees is the officer handcuffing him, and then they go back to the car. So she isn't a particular witness of the actual shooting itself. And so we've still been scouring the area looking for actual witnesses.
Now, the Union City Police Department has stated that it's conducting its own investigation, as well as the Alameda District Attorney is conducting a separate investigation. Being that you're from that area, do you have any confidence in their ability
No
to
confidence.
conduct? Okay.
None. Absolutely none. The district attorney's office here basically is a rubber stamp for the police department. We had one time that they investigated, they filed a case against a police officer, and that was a case where a young man got shot in the back on a train station. It was in full presence of a lot of different witnesses. But generally, no. I've been involved in maybe 30 cases down through the years, and they never prosecuted anybody, and they always find ways to support the police. And no, I have no confidence in it. This is not a transparency area where cops come forward. Department comes forward and admit what they've done wrong if they've done something wrong. It's always to justify it by putting it in light most favorable to the police.
Does the Union City Police have dash cams in their vehicles that might show what happened?
I don't know the answer to that. That's one of the things that we will find out. Those things have been very helpful when they do have them, but I don't know the answer to that.
Okay. Well, Double A, did you have any final questions?
Well, other than just wondering, like you'd already stated, how could the man be shot in the back if he was brandishing a weapon? That to me does not make sense.
Yeah, that's what we got to find out. And they have not been very cooperative with me in terms of turning over files and everything. So they actually didn't even want to give me the names of the officers. Fortunately, I had already taken the photographs of the boy when he was shot and killed, so I have the photographs and I know what the shots were because the police put a hole in the autopsy report, which is ridiculous, but they've done that. So these are all signs that they will make it as difficult as possible to find out what happened. So
sounds like a cover-up.
Absolutely.
Well, Mr. Burris, I want to thank you again for taking time out to speak to us today. And please, if there are any new developments, any new information that you think the public should be made aware of, please do not hesitate to contact us.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Thank you, Mr. Burris.